Hello everybody, this is Project Bert Hellinger, and I will have a special guest, half Brazilian, no, half German, half American, that has been living in Brazil for over 10 years. He is a gestalt therapist, has worked with Bert Hellinger and Sophie Hellinger for over 10 years, and I'm gonna let him come live now. We just finished our English as a way of honoring the work and the legacy of Betty Hellinger. So,
Great.
welcome back.
Yep.
So I was just giving a brief introduction about your work, and yeah, first of all, would you like to say something? Because I guess, for people here, I am in Northern Ireland in the UK.
Right.
So there will be people from Europe that are going to be listening to this live. So it'd be interesting to have an idea of what you do and how did you get into connection with Family Constellations and Betty Hellinger.
Sure. So when I was 16, my American father and his second wife brought us to live in Brazil, and I spent my last 22 years here. And yeah, it was quite a big change for me. So beginning, I was already in a circumstance where I would say, this is the kind of stuff that makes people go after, healing journeys or therapy maybe. So in my case, that's basically what I did. And where I lived in the city of Belo Horizonte, there was this woman. She was mother of a friend of mine in high school. And she basically introduced me to a lot of stuff. And among them was also Family Constellation. And I had no idea what it was. I basically just went to this town about 60 miles away. And there I was. And it was impressive. It really moved me a lot how people were able to be in a constellation, feel the things they felt, and express these feelings. And just the fact that through our bodies, we were able to make these connections through our awareness and perception, not really through our mind or whatever we were thinking about. So that was very impressive. And so I was already introduced very early on, like in my late teens, to this work and to other therapy work. This is also how I came to get to know gestalt therapy and
Okay. This seems to be happening every few minutes. Let's see if we come back. Okay. Back again, the exact same way. Deja vu.
Yeah, whatever. So as I said, I was going through this whole experience, and Family Constellation was just like among other things I was experiencing then. And then I went into my training in gestalt therapy in 2010, and also going through changes and crises. And finally, a companion in the group asked me whether I knew Family Constellation. I said yes. And then she asked me whether I was doing translation work. I said, yes, I do occasionally, because that wasn't my focus really. In Belo Horizonte, there weren't really that many interpreters to be had, or there wasn't big request for demand for German, Portuguese interpreters back then. So basically, on and off, I did Portuguese, English interpretation. I had done some work as an interpreter before. But anyways, she asked me, I said yes. And then she asked me to just send my curriculum and my contacts to this place in Brasilia. And I had no idea who these people were. And they forwarded my CV to Sophie Hellinger, who, unbeknownst to me, was Bert Hellinger's second wife and had founded this school, Hellinger Schule. So I had no idea about that whatsoever. And the idea was actually for me to come to Germany and translate for Bert Hellinger's 85th birthday, which fell through because of the fact that Bert Hellinger had already chosen somebody to translate him into Portuguese. So I just basically thought, okay, that was a once in a lifetime thing, and I just let it go, basically. And 9 months after that, the same people reached out from Germany to me, asking me whether I could come to Germany and translate in this event that was then called the International Hellinger Camp. And I had no idea what that was or what kind of people would come there. So I later learned it was an event with more than 500 people from 5 continents, and there were interpreters for 6 languages, and among them was me for the first time. And on the last day of that event, there was 5 days, and it was quite intense. I finally had the courage to go downstairs to the stage and greet Bert Hellinger, just be close to him at once. And that was very marking for me, because it was kind of like also being for the first time in touch physically or close up with him, and I could just feel his presence and the way that he was just there. And it was I think one of the things that really got to me was the clarity of it all, how clear everything was with him. And that actually gave me a sense of security also. Like, no is a no, yes is a yes. I mean, you know this from Brazilian culture. Sometimes our no's are not really no's, our yes is not really yes. That doesn't matter if you're in Brazil or not. There's always like this ambiguity because of social restraints or because of some pressure or whatever. And with him, that was never the case. So it made things for me like I could relax and I could just be with him and be myself. And that was something I really appreciated with him. I had really precious moments with him later on, whether we would go shopping somewhere close to their home or staying with him and sharing a meal. Where being with him for me was kind of like, it was really relaxing. And it was funny because for people who participated in those events, it was terrible to come up on stage, sit next to him. People were completely like nervous, or they went blank or whatever. And it was interesting because I could sense that these people had not really gotten in tune with him. And he talked about attunement a lot, coming in tune with people. So this kind of connection that we can have. And that was very interesting, because I sensed that in order to become attuned, it really required this kind of physical presence, and that was connected to this ability, this human ability that we all have to feel each other, And it's interesting in English, sometimes people say this: "Do you feel me?" So it's not, do you agree with me on something, or do you understand what I'm saying, but do you feel me? Like, do you feel how I feel or what I feel? I think this is maybe an expression of compassion, and more than anything else, it was like this connection that really, really impressed me, and it really gave me a sense of what it was that he was doing when those constellations happened, when this work happened. Because it wasn't the constellation itself, it wasn't the fact that there were people there and suddenly they got up and then they placed themselves somewhere and then they became that person's representative, or somebody from the family, or even a country, or whatever. I mean, there were all kinds of constellations. That wasn't the main point. It was really the effect of that work on us, on everybody. And it didn't matter, and this was another big change in his work, that the client's ideas or demands or questions didn't really matter. What mattered was that which happened. And that's the phenomenon. So for me, the phenomenological posture or the phenomenological attitude is basically this surrender, to what is. And I think for many people who later learned or studied about family constellation, this is something that has been kind of like sidelined or forgotten, because it's very inconvenient if people tell you, okay, in order to do your job, forget everything and just be there, and don't do anything, right? Like, don't do it. You don't need to do anything
Is that
or
if people
explain
can't
it.
grasp that idea. It's very
Yeah,
challenging sometimes.
but exactly, because it's not an idea. It's exactly that, and it's not about grasping it. That's another point. It's not about grasping
It
anything.
is.
About letting go and letting it pass through you, and then being the channel. And that's another point
But I
that
would
for me,
constantly get like, but how? Because living in
exactly.
Europe, where everything is so like that, even like
Well,
it's not
yeah,
as, people, unless they have an experience of going to other countries where they see different cultures, can be very limiting sometimes, no? So for them to even to propose something like that, they're like, but how do I get there? Like,
right.
it's literally like, what do you mean by
And I
that?
think how is sometimes it can be like really just, how do I do this, or it can be also kind of like this defense mechanism, right? Because I want to be sure, or
Yeah,
I want to have as much security or as much of a guarantee than anything. And that is the contradiction of this work, because since it is phenomenological, what happens afterwards, the effect of it, is what then comes, what appears, and what people then experience. And you cannot produce an effect on a whim or on command. It's not a button that you push and then something happens. It is not mechanical. Although
yeah,
some people think that in the therapy process, there is this idea of, we begin here and then we go through the process and that's our end result and that's it, right?
yeah,
And people have this idea of like setting up a constellation is about, well, you constellate that, then it's done, and then check on your checklist of things you have
yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's a very mechanical, very materialistic way of thinking, which is very common to us because this is the references we have. So
Mm-hmm.
we're working within this frame of our conscience, and I think conscience is something that's great. That is, for me, one of the biggest, greatest revelations that Bert Hellinger had. How our conscience works. And in our conscience, we need this kind of contention. We need these limits so we feel safe, right? So you're in this group, and this is what you do in this group, and this is what is expected of you in this group, and that's fine. And if you have repetition, if you have a habit, and if you have all these things that people agree on, more safety. This creates safety. And this is what he called good conscience. If you do things in good conscience, or if you act in good conscience, that's the effect. You feel safe.
Uh-huh.
You feel sure. You know what is and what shouldn't be. You know what is part of it, what is to be included, and what is to be excluded and left out.
Uh-huh.
All right. And that is a very, very clear cut kind of way of thinking. And it really, it's kind of like, white and black and good and bad. And it works. And for us, it's also a survival skill because of something that Bert Hellinger also said, the fact that we belong. The fact that we belong makes us develop this skill. And in our conscience, we kind of have this sensory response to what the group or our family or our colleagues expect. And if you do what is expected from you, then you fit in. If you don't do what is expected of you, you won't fit as much, even to the extent, and that's just a law, that you cannot be in that place or with that group anymore. And this is interesting because we have, and this is another contradiction, we have in our own social sense, because we need to belong. We're human beings, we need to belong. We
Yeah.
won't survive unless it's in a group. And this is another thing, the the path of self-awareness, or the path of, developing a consciousness and awareness, is lonely. I cannot do that with you. I can accompany you, or you can accompany me on that path, but nobody can do that for another one.
Uh-huh.
It's not like, go to the doctors or go to the pharmacy and get me that, and then I'll take it. You know, this isn't how awareness works. And awareness is based on our experience. So we cannot produce experiences. We can offer experiences, but we can't, make them. We can't make an experience. We can't create that and then just put it into your little brain or something and then just say, great, one more experience for you. There you go.
Uh-huh.
this is something that with Bert Hellinger became so clear for me, because I think my vocation as a teacher is making people understand something so they can become aware. But I don't know how many things you will become aware of. I don't know the effect of that. But the phenomenological posture is that I just surrender to the circumstances, not because I'm passive and I don't do anything, but I can sense, I can connect, I can actually relate to something in a deeper way, and I can come to another understanding. The understanding, it comes not through this mental effort, like I have to understand this concept and then this concept and analyze the data and then, come to conclusions. No, you understand things. You finally understand more things about your parents, or you understand things about your past, or you understand things about your partner that you couldn't understand before. And these understandings, they are gained through an experience that you make. They are not made because you make an effort to understand them. Mm-hmm. And this is another interesting thing, because I think for many people, they go to therapy and they say they want to understand themselves, or they want to understand their patterns and their blind spots. And that's okay. But I mean, there's so much mental effort sometimes that you close up, or you limit it even more, because then the idea is, I need to get better, I need to get away from that, and I don't need this anymore. I need something better and new and healthier or whatever. But Bert Hellinger had a very interesting concept, which is acknowledging that which is, or recognizing that which is. And recognizing or acknowledging doesn't mean, you think it's good or bad. And it's not because you like it or you don't. But it's like, just as in nature, I am aware that the things are as they are. And because of this realization, I also become in tune. We were talking about this before. Mm-hmm. The fact that I come in tune makes me automatically be less resisting the fact that the way the things are, the way the people are, the way things are happening. And when Bert Hellinger had this tendency in many of his sentences, when he said, exactly as they are, my mother exactly as she is, or my father exactly as he is. And we don't know that. We don't know exactly who our father or who our mother is. We have images of our parents, or we have images of certain aspects of our lives or of other people's lives. And this is the work that I think Bert Hellinger did with and through constellations, which is breaking images. You have an image of your mother, that is an image that has an effect on you, and it limits you, and it limits your awareness. If I break that, our mind doesn't work without images. So we basically keep exchanging, and this is the interesting thing. Once we have another image, it's about how much more do I see now? What else is there? It's not, I don't have an image. Of course I have an image. I have an image of my father and my mother, but it's a different image. And the effect it has on me is now different. And of course, the idea is, we don't want to keep suffering, and we don't want to keep, arguing or fighting or struggling with things. But the fact that it has this effect of less suffering, less struggling, less fighting, less blockage, that is an effect that we need to acknowledge. Because some people say, no limit, no limitation is better, no resistance and no fighting and no struggle. But fighting and struggling and limiting is part of who we are. We exclude people from our lives. Yes, yeah, we do that. It's not because we're not systemic enough. It's because we're humans. And that's how we work. This is how our conscience regulates us. And conscience is such an important, for me, such an important point of Bert Hellinger's teachings. And he came to the point, as I said in Portuguese before, that he said people haven't understood conscience. none of the constellators I know have understood conscience, how conscience acts, because conscience is there. It just is, you know. And I don't get to choose my conscience. My conscience, as you know, my other senses, my sensory organs, it works, and it tells me what to do, and it tells me what is more adequate, what is more socially acceptable in that group with these people, how to act, how to adapt, how to behave. And that's a survival skill. That's not because, you know, we're fake and we don't show ourselves or who we really are, we're not authentic enough. No.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is important to also relate to, because it's not either or, you know. I think even for constellators, it's very important to understand we have a conscience that divides things very clearly in either or, either this or that,
Yeah.
black or white, you know.
Yeah.
And that's part of who we are. Oh, that's fine, but we have to become aware of it. We have, you know,
Mm-hmm.
people who don't like family constellation. Yeah, of course, the people who don't like family constellation. I mean, there are lots of things not to like about how family constellation is being shown in the world, or it's very weird. It is,
It
you
is,
know.
yeah.
But
That's something that I wanted actually to ask is like, for example, in Brazil, we are so blessed that we can have in with the work of SAMI, with the lawyers or the judges or health or education. In a lot of the places in Europe, it's like not, I'm not sure so much in Germany, but here in the UK or things like that, how to bring something so profound and so deep to, for example, an organization or to, for example, to a school. Is like how
yeah,
to simplify something so profound
well,
to the common knowledge. Is it
well,
even
because it
possible?
is.
Because
This is the thing, Sarah. It is basically, it is common because it's common to us. It's common to our nature. So you're not talking about rocket science. You're talking about relationships, and you're talking about human behavior. You're not talking about something that's unimaginable.
yeah,
It's very relatable. Do you
yeah,
know anybody who doesn't have parents and who doesn't have a family?
yeah.
So,
Uh-huh.
so
But the way you said before, you know, like how the concepts, how we are seeking
sure,
concepts, but
this is important. You know, somebody once said, if you, the deeper your understanding goes, the more you can explain something to a 3-year-old child. If you
good.
can explain
That's a good
something to a
answer.
3-year-old child, then you really understood something,
Yeah,
right? Because it's not about this is only for people who are
yeah,
related. Like, no,
yeah.
it is.
Uh-huh.
It's
Uh-huh.
not.
That's a really good answer. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It is for everybody. It's
Yeah.
not for the select few. I think it's the opposite. It should be made available to the most of people,
Yeah.
but it's about the sense of I understand more about myself and my connections and
Yeah.
relationships. I don't need to change that necessarily, but I can gain more insights
Mm-hmm.
and I can amplify my awareness because I have a family.
Uh-huh.
I come from a family, and probably I am living in relations and relationships with others.
Yeah.
So that's the human condition.
Yeah.
This is nothing
One thing that I think that
um,
is sometimes it's challenging for people is to understand the field. Do you know how
right.
does it work
Well,
in a field? Because of
yeah,
course,
but
if
I
you
would,
see someone lying on a
you know,
bed on,
that's also another thing. That's very easy. Um, the field is, you know, like it's hot now because it's summer.
yeah,
You need to worry about what it is made of. I mean, do you really worry about how much UV rays are now basically now going through the atmosphere and hitting you in Ireland, and you know, the way that, you know, clouds are formed and then they go and
yeah,
pass over
yeah.
rains. Same thing,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah,
It is what it
yeah,
is. It is
yeah,
exactly that. You know, and I mean, Rupert Sheldrake, who is from the UK, he did a great work in you know, in understanding morphic fields. These are morphic fields. These are
yeah. But
fields
a
of
lot of the
information.
time, sadly, they say that it's mockery, that is fake science, and
Well, I
you
mean,
know,
the other thing is we're not talking about science here, okay? I wouldn't go as far as to be worried about that,
yeah,
because this is another thing. Hellinger never worried about justifying it
that's
or
really beautiful.
making it it like so other people would say, oh, now I accept your ideas. It's not about making people accept anything.
No
You don't,
affiliations, huh?
this isn't a mission. This isn't anything that people need to necessarily understand. Some people are just fine as they are, And I mean, whoever finds you or who looks for you or who asks you about something or who takes you up on an offer that you make, okay. But this isn't about activism, okay? This isn't about, this doesn't need to be anything. This already is, okay? This is not, this is why I'm very, very surprised by people like Sami Storch and others who have done an immense work in making it public and then making it very complicated with institutions like in Brazil to people about how important family constellations are and how better people would be off if they knew about family constellations, and let people who know about family constellations work, for example, in courts, because there's been a lot of abuse of power and there's been a lot of misunderstandings and there's been a lot of things that I think have nothing to do with family constellation whatsoever. And they have nothing to do with Bert Hellinger, and they have nothing to do with anything that is really essential to this work.
Yeah, that's kind of the root, really. The heart of this project is like, how can we keep his legacy and his teachings as authentic, as intact as possible? Because,
but I mean, this is very nice to understand that. But I mean, on the other hand, it's also, what is the intention?
Yeah.
And I mean, authenticity isn't an intention. Authenticity is who you are. This is who you are.
Yeah.
And something moves you and something interests you and you feel called to something. That's part of who you are. That's fine.
Yeah.
But, between authenticity and ideology, some people, they don't really know exactly what is what. Okay? So authentic is me with what I am, the way I am. Ideology is the way I think and I want to propose that things have to be or have to become because I'm scared.
Yeah.
Okay? So
that makes sense.
I'm not worried, looking at you, for example, who's in the last generation of people doing this training in Brazil. I'm not really worried about the legacy itself. I am observing things. I am responding to things like your questions. And I think it's very nice of you that we're having this kind of conversation now, because I think it maybe also clarifies a few things for you. But the fact that you stay curious, that you stay connected, and that you would like to, search.
Yeah.
That you say, okay, I found it all, I have it all, and it's done. That's a good part of, the movement, this motion that keeps you in contact with something, something that you're exploring, something that, you're finding out as you go.
Yeah, especially because, for example, I remember in a seminar with Sophie, she was saying how many people said that they trained with Bert Hellinger and he was still alive, but they have never even went to meet him or to do anything with him. And those are the reasons why I was like, like how to, because make us that we didn't relate to him that way to feel closer. I think it keeps the inspiration in that way.
The problem with that, but I can tell you, I mean, I can we can relieve you of your anxiety. Even the people who were alive when he was still alive, some people never got to know Bert Hellinger. Some people never got to know Bert Hellinger. Some people, while Bert Hellinger was alive, were doing trainings and were offering trainings in family constellation without getting to know him.
Yeah.
So it's not about getting to know Bert Hellinger, because even if you were back then in maybe 2015 in a big hall with hundreds of other people, I could ask you that, would you meet Bert Hellinger? Or would it be better because then you would see him, unless, you see him on a screen, or you now can see him on screens because you see excerpts from the videos. I think that's not the point. That's not really the point. It's your connection with yourself. because Bert Hellinger I knew was a very sympathetic, nice, old German guy who died 6 years ago. And I have my relationship with him, but I have also had a relationship with other people who passed away. And that is not important. That is not as important as what you've learned or what you're now doing with that, or what is now happening as an effect of you, for example, being in contact or in touch with these teachings. And I think it's more about raising this awareness and finding an attunement. Again, I'm talking about attunement, because in the end, you know, Sarah, what really matters is what happens after this. You know, what is the effect of that on you, on your relationships, and on other people, and the people you accompany or work with, or what you offer, you know. And that's for me something that's very rewarding, when I see people asking themselves that, or getting in touch with, you know, whatever they can.
What do I do with these, no?
Sure. But also, you know, what is there now in me? What do I see inside of me? What are the images that I carry? What are my intentions, you know? Or what do I feel uneasy about or anxious about? And that's fine. But this is about self-reflection, and this is about, you know, this is about part of authenticity that maybe some people don't find so attractive, because it's not about nice things. You know, it's about other things too. It's about where I'm resistant, or where I struggle, or where I have problems and issues with, and, you know, look at it.
You
know?
I think one of the things that are calls the most is this aspect of the presence. What you said before in the live in Portuguese, I think that is something that to me is, it feels like such an appealing to know, like to when I actually myself managed to get this experience of feeling so present, and also to be able to be in presence with other people. I think those things are, it makes us feel like we are even beyond from this world, you know. There is something so much deeper here.
I don't know if it's beyond. I think it's even more connected.
Yeah.
And it's maybe more connected with this world and with everything that's in this world, because lots of people, they want to space out, they want to go into another world, or they want to transcend reality or stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, to get out of this present time, no?
Yeah, but that's exactly not what Bert Hellinger's work is about. Bert Hellinger's work is about how you relate to yourself and to others, how you stay present with what is, and acknowledging that, and attuning with that, and with other people, and to be a witness to that, and to stay with that, you know. And this in itself, it has an effect. This is what is interesting about this work. This work of Family Constellation, it works beyond the ideas and expectations and images, and it works, and it has an effect beyond that, because otherwise, you know, it wouldn't have become that popular or that well known in so many parts of the world. On the other hand, of course, it's also being used for other things, like anything that humans have created, and anything that, when you put something in a group of people, people will, you know, do with that something, you know.
Yeah, I guess we are getting towards the end, no? Yeah, so as a constellator, has there been, maybe this could be the last one because of your time, has there been one session that you did yourself, you know, that you were there facilitating, hold the space, whatever way we want to call, being the constellator of the moment, and that you could see as in like a shift? Like, I know people that they had cancer and the cancer was gone, or people that I had a client that the father wasn't talking to her for 3 years. When she got married, he said, okay, you chose him, no longer with you. And after the constellation, 3 days later, she texts saying, you won't believe who knocked on my door, and it was her father. So do you have any story that are like that are like that impressed you
So
somehow?
no, I don't have stories of diseases disappearing, or parents
Can be
reappearing.
anything.
I actually loved when a participant recently said in a feedback loop. I love to do that, give people the chance to give feedback on what they discovered. And her discovery was, I think I never listened.
Mm.
I think that I don't know how to listen.
Beautiful.
The woman was maybe 50 years old, and I said, that is a beautiful, beautiful discovery. How important that is. How important
Yeah.
it is that you now were able to become in touch with something that for your future relationships and for you is very relevant. And I think this kind of discovery where people can come in touch with what is, and it's not about what the person knows or doesn't know, is precious.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the kind of journey that I like to think people can go on through this phenomenological work of Bert Hellinger. And that's very beautiful.
Would you say anything for someone who has never experienced family constellation before?
Um, well,
Try.
it's like their experience. Oh, I wouldn't tell people to try it. It's not about convincing people about it. It's about telling people that um, family constellation is not what it seems to be, what it promises to be. It is what you experience with it. This is what is family constellation. It is not what is on the flyer. It is not what people promise you. It is not what people guarantee that will happen. That is not family constellation.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I know that other people have been saying what a lesson, it's been like having a proper class with you tonight, well, today. So I really appreciate that. And I saw Sami coming here as well. Hopefully he's going to be able to join the project at some time. And have a good day. Really, I'm so grateful to have connected with you in a different way other than the recordings. So it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for being
Sure.
here.
Okay.
Enjoy your day.
You
Bye
too.
bye. Thank you. Bye bye.